Yep.
Okay.
Great. Morning, everybody. Today is June 4th, 2021. I'd like to call to order the Troy LDC meeting. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 17th, 2021 board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as transcribed.
Great, Ken. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Steve, Executive Director's report.
Okay, so this will be a relatively quick meeting, depending on our discussion in the old business, National Grid. So the big thing here is the loans, and we had an earlier meeting than normal this month, so Mary Ellen and I did not actually get a chance to sit down as much as we usually would for a third Thursday meeting or third Friday meeting. The update, BSM Banquet Hall, we are sending them now a new invoice for all total payments. I spoke with him yesterday. He said he would try to catch up. All of his revenue is coming from his other company. It's very slow to get, the banquet business obviously is just starting to pick up. He does have the business listed for sale. He said, it's been for sale for a long time. So he doesn't have any offers or anything. But we'll try to get that one cleaned up.
Hey, Steve, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Can you, who was that again?
That's Brad Stevens and Mark Stevens. So he owns B-Rads. And Mark used to also operate the restaurant up at Fair Park as well.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So we're working with him on that. Let's see. Corey, we sent a notice of demand out to Corey with 77 Troy Kitchen. I haven't spoken to him recently. I will continue to keep trying to talk to him. I know he's not paying rent either at his Albany location. So it's not like he's diverting our money somewhere else. He doesn't have any money. So I'll try and keep in touch with where he is. And let's see, the other two are Rare Form and Dutch Udder. They're smaller amounts. Again, I'm sorry, I haven't had time. It's been crazy here and a lot of other things. We need to reach out to them, and I'll try and do that early next week. I know Dutch Udder is good for the payments. Rare Form only owes us about $2,000. So now hopefully that he's picking up again, he can pay us off. So that's where that's the update on the loans.
Chairman?
Yes, Ken.
Steve, sorry, and I should have went through the chair on my previous question. I apologize. Steve, so the question that was raised yesterday about the old Germania Hall.
Yeah.
Who's running that?
That is BSM Banquet Hall. So
same exact folks
company.
that
Right, I'm sorry.
used to have the Fair Park Pub.
His brother did. So his
Yeah.
brother was a partner, but it was mostly Brad Stevens running it. But Mark was in there, and there's another gentleman, Jim Conroy, who's not the realtor Jim Conroy. It's, actually, it might be something other than Jim. But so there's three of them. And so that was an original, and I'm making up numbers here, but that loan was originally like 140,000, and now the outstanding balance is probably about in the 60s, I believe. So
Okay, so just to understand, there were three businesses that the brothers or in some way the family was operating: B-Rads Restaurant, Fair Park Pub, which they're not involved in anymore. That's
I
correct.
think Mark has sold that. He's got somebody else operating it now.
Okay, and then Germania Hall now is called what? Party Events and Banquet Hall or something like that.
Right. It's BSM Banquet. BSM Banquets is who the loan is to. But I do remember there was a Party Events somewhere in there. That name was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no money owed for the Fair Park Pub is out of the picture.
It was never in the picture.
Never in the picture.
Right.
B-Rads, the restaurant, is there anything owed on that?
I don't think there never has been in my term here. They only had the one loan, but they had the three businesses. So all I was saying was he's paying these loans through his revenue from B-Rads.
Got it. Okay. it makes more sense now. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I wasn't more clear on that. And so we'll speak with them again, based on another conversation with Brad at BSM Banquets. I don't know if they're going to want to try and restructure an extension again. I'll talk with Justin and afterwards next week to just kind of get a game plan of what we want to do. Okay. And that's also, let me just make sure nobody else is on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have been negotiating for property north of Ingalls Avenue boat launch to develop something up there with the Ingalls Avenue boat launch. I haven't approached the city council or anything on that, but I'm close to having a deal there. And so we might, whether I use the IDA or the LDC for that, that'll be something on the agenda next month. And that makes a great development site there on the river. Although it is a brownfield site, but we also can use that brownfield grant that we got, even though it was a South Troy brownfield grant, we can use some of that money to investigate this as well. So that's it for the executive director's report.
Great, thanks, Steve. Next item on the agenda is the old business.
Okay, and this is actually one and the same. So we're close, although actually Justin Miller was on yesterday with National Grid. We've been negotiating back and forth. Justin, you want to fill us in where we are? Is this something I should stop recording or keep going?
I think we're okay. I had a good call with 3 of their lawyers yesterday on the license agreement, and we're kind of, for a while, we're kind of going past one another with some concepts. In particular, the ELOT building, or site warehouse as we're calling it now, the use of it, and what the LDC's obligations will be with respect to maintaining it are kind of what we're hammering out right now. All the rest of the terms and provisions are kind of falling in line with where Steve Strikeman and I have reviewed and we're comfortable with. I expect to turn a revised draft to them Monday and get their immediate response, and have something hopefully prepared in the next couple of weeks. Certainly by the next meeting cycle, if not sooner, if the board or if Steve wants to put a special meeting together. Most likely we'll be landing on a commencement date of something like September 1 to fall in line with where they have where they expect to have the remediation bids returned and a contract signed for the remediation. So we're on track. Things seem to be going in the right direction. So.
And as soon as we get the go ahead, I probably would like to call a special meeting just to get that done. So I don't imagine it'll be before the end of June or the beginning of July, but I'd like to do that just to get that thing, keep that moving forward. It's pretty important to the financial future of the local development corporation and our ability to potentially sell that property.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions for Steve or Justin? I don't believe there's anything that we need to make a motion for, right? It's just for informational purposes. Steve, any new business?
The only thing I'd just like to bring up right now, as I mentioned before the meeting, was do we want to continue meeting remotely or start in person again? I mean, the city council, I don't know, does the city council have any intent on what?
Yeah, so we actually had a quick discussion yesterday about it, and our council president, Carmel Mantello, and myself agree that the August timeframe is what we're looking at to go back to in-person meetings. So we've heard some people say September, some August. So I mean, I feel very comfortable going back to having in-person meetings. I think most people, I mean, the requirement would be that you got to be vaccinated to be in person, of course. But assuming that everyone's vaccinated, I'm very comfortable with it. And we're looking at August.
Okay. So I guess I would just leave it up to you, Andy. I don't know if you have any thoughts, or Justin, if you want to just line up with the council or start meeting earlier, or.
Well, one thing we're keeping an eye on is whether or not the governor's going to keep his executive. Usually about the 3rd or the 4th of the month that where he's renewed it for another month. So we're kind of keeping an eye on close of business today as to whether he extends his executive order. If he does, that allows continued use of remote meetings. You can have board members in the same room and complete a quorum with a Zoom call under that regime. So you can have a modified version of or a hybrid version of a public meeting where the public's access is through the Zoom platform as well. And you have to provide notices just like you have for people to watch. He could adopt a hybrid version of the executive order that kind of allows that, or go right back. He could let it lapse today and we got to go back to hard meetings starting next week. We just don't know. So I think, and what I've told several boards is let's see what happens this month for an extension. If it's extended into July, keep an eye on July for a hard meeting, potentially, where you got to get into a room for a quorum and you got to allow the public in the room with you. And I think that's where the rub may be. He may not want public assemblies again, but we'll see. So I think before making a decision, let's keep an eye on what he may spit out. It'll affect your format. And then we can kind of plan accordingly. That might be the better way to look at it.
Justin, do we have the right to make our own decision? Or does it have to be directed by the governor?
The order affects the open meetings law, which governs how you assemble as a board. Right now, he suspended it and said, okay, instead of having to get a quorum in a room and have the public fully accessing that room with you, you can do this other thing. So that either is going to continue, and you could choose to have everyone in the same room and not the public there under this format if you want to, but you got to have the Zoom thing available. Or you could do something in the middle, or hopefully go back to, as soon as we can, to the traditional format. But we're kind of a little bit of a slave to his determination on how the law is going to be modified if it is going forward. So
we could go back to totally live meetings and have the public show up if we want, but we can't go the other way. If he says you must have live meetings, we can't opt for Zoom.
Right. If we go back to the old format under the order, in other words, if he lifts the order and says, okay, pre-COVID rules apply, we can't do this anymore. We can't get in a quorum like this. You can't have a board member participate by Zoom. You got to have people in a room with a quorum and the public there. So, and the IDA has separate rules where it needs to actually film and broadcast. This board doesn't need to do that quite yet. So I think we'll know in the next couple of days which direction it's going in, whether we have another 30 days of this stuff or if he's going to start lifting things up.
Okay. So I guess we'll wait and.
Yes, Ken.
Yeah, Chair, I think it's interesting to see if, even if we get back to in-person meetings, if there'll be any residual effect of having virtual meetings for so long. In other words, will the governor, I know that there's been, the move to telecommuting. Like telecommuting now has become far more accepted because the world is seeing that, hey, people can work remotely and still get their work done. I wonder if it's possible that it can continue with meetings and they'll say, listen, you can have either a full remote or some kind of hybrid, meeting and still have those votes count, that it will be legal. I'm very curious to see what might happen as a result of everything that we've experienced over the last year.
Yeah, it's a perfect point, and you hit it right on the head. And we've been kind of thinking, oh, geez, we've proved it can happen. And that's the same thing's happening in the private sector with remote telecommuting and remote working. We've proved it can be, it can be done. And it's affecting the real estate industry, quite frankly. The footprints of large offices are all being reviewed right now. With respect to the open meetings law and what may happen in the future, we're like, well, geez, we proved, this works, right? We've proved that it can happen. Andy can be in Dubai if he wants to and and participate in this meeting and have it be effective. Looking down the line, we're like, well, geez, okay, and we actually reached out about a month ago to the Committee on Open Government, which has new leadership now. That's a whole nother story, but we reached out and said, hey, is the second floor engaging with you guys about a potential way to get to a hybrid meeting format under the open meetings law? You would think that the governor's office or leadership would engage with that board to kind of plan out and structure that. And they hadn't heard anything at all. So as far as I know, there hasn't really been any deep policy discussions between the Department of State, where the Committee on Open Government sits, and the second floor, as far as we know. So my hunch is that he's just going to hit stop. We just don't know when. I don't think they're going to make a hybrid. I think it would be great to do it, but they may go back to got to get in a room, got to get in. I mean, it may have to go through the legislature and let it go, the sausage machine, figure it out if there's going to be a long-term change, as opposed to an executive order continuing for, the next 12 months. I think there seems, not just New York State, but there seems to be a big consensus out there that no one wants these executive orders anymore. So it's hard to guess where things are going to fall. I mean, Andy's question earlier as to whether the governor's going to keep controlling this is very pointed. It's a good point. And I think people want to get back to normal, and normal is the typical format until I think the legislature amends the open meetings law.
Guess time will tell.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Steve, I'm not sure if there's anything else you wanted to add with new business.
No.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the financials. Mary Ellen?
First report is the statement of financial position. As of 5/31, our total assets are $3,103,324, with $290,324 in assets. In cash. We have $1,035,166 in liabilities. So our fund balance is $2,068,158. There's no real changes to the statement of financial position. Moving on to the statement of activity versus the budget. For May, we have a $6,021 deficit. We had a revenue of $6,816 from late fees and rent. Our largest expense was in interest, which is for the HUD loan.
Great.
Any questions?
Thanks, Mary Ellen. So it sounds like there's no questions from Mary Ellen at this time regarding the financials. So do we have a motion to approve the financials?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Ken, do we have a second? Andy? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right. Well, that concludes our meeting. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Steve?
Second.
Ken, second. Any opposed? Great. We're adjourned.
All right. Hey, Justin Miller, can you stay on?
All right.